It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Yay.
Hey, that's my line. So I'll just say I'll agree with what was previously said.
How's that for a nickel?
Oh, worth $1, huh?
No.
Just add that tag to your new song there, Liz. Okay?
Sick beats.
Sick beats, yes.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and reveal it. When we record, Mikey does all the editing. And he cuts out. There's some stuff he'll save that's deleted. We'll add it to. I add it to our SoundCloud account, and then I'll post the link onto our Discord. Well, the last one. Was it the last one? Has it been? We hadn't had one since then.
That's really only a few episodes back.
Well,
I
okay,
wouldn't be
that's
surprised. There might have been one since then, but I don't
true.
know.
It might have been one. Anyway, it was the clip was entitled Beatbox. It was actually for our last episode of the year, and I was saying, I was trying to wrap things up to go into our little break, and I said we'll wrap up the year, and then after I closed it out, Liz was going boom, 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 something like that.
Wrap up the year, right?
Wrap up the year.
Hey, that was some sick beats I laid down.
There was some sick beats you laid down.
So, you know, I posted that. Well, today, this is February 26th, recording, this morning I received a notification that I have a message on my SoundCloud, or our SoundCloud account. And it's this lady, quote unquote, saying that she listened to that clip and thought it was what was the term again?
A total banger.
Total banger.
Liz doesn't memorize this or anything. I'm just saying.
And basically was trying to sell herself as to promote the song.
The song, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reading this, and then I read it again, and then I read it again,
And then the milk comes out your nose.
and then I said, "What the actual fuck?" So of course I had to share it with the guys.
It was a total bot comment. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, I know.
Hey, that's my fan you're talking about.
That's your new manager, right?
Yeah. I was thinking I should send this to Pitney so I finally get my duet, right?
There you go.
So say, lay some sick beats with me. One day, that will happen.
It's going to happen.
It will.
Don't know which day, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, and when you posted that, it took me a minute. It was like, what the hell?
Me too.
That's how random these things are to me. It's like,
Oh,
what?
it's not just you. They're random entirely. They're random to everybody.
Everybody.
Reminds me of the one we got a couple of years ago on the Pop Goes the Culture website. That was clearly not a bot, but oh man. Because Joey had messaged me and said, "Hey, you got an interesting comment on your last episode." So I popped over onto the WordPress site and looked at it. And I scrolled down and I read a little bit, and I scrolled down and I read a little bit. And by this time I was curious, so I copied and pasted it into a Word doc of some sort. I don't remember if it was actually Word or not, but it was 8 pages long. And boy, howdy, it was some conspiracy theory craziness that I don't know what the hell, because that was why Joey messaged me. Was one, it was hilarious, but he also wasn't sure if there was any real context there. And so I read through it and I laughed and I laughed and I laughed, and then I messaged him back and said, "Nope, this is total nut job nonsense." He's like, "Okay, cool."
Man.
8 typewritten pages.
8 pages. That's
Oh, and it was like a story. It was not just a comment about our episode and how awesome it was. Oh no, it went down rabbit holes like you wouldn't believe.
What was the episode that set him off?
Oh dear Lord, I don't know. It was totally random. Like I said, this was a couple of years ago.
Right. Oh. How funny.
Yep. Put your stuff out there, folks, and you just never know what you're going to get back.
Right.
That'll probably be entertaining, whatever it is.
Like that Cole Spruce girl, it was like, whoa, it's not that serious.
Mm-hmm.
I just said he was a douchebag. That's it.
Like, prove me wrong. I mean, come on.
I used his words.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Oh, man. Well, I found a new agent this morning.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Right. We're gonna.
This one actually answered your call.
Yeah. I told her I'm from G-Town. I'm ready to lay some beats.
Oh, she's going to record her solo album anytime now, guys.
Right.
Anytime.
No, but I did this weekend watch the new, the title just left me, the new Avatar series. And I don't know. I didn't think it now before all the anime people come for me.
Oh, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay.
Yeah, not the blue guys,
Got it.
the bald guy.
Well, there's a movie coming out, right?
Well, this is it. It's not necessarily a movie, which is where I think they did this right.
Oh, okay.
Because the last movie that came out, they got the story, but they tried to squeeze 3 seasons of TV series into a 2-hour movie, and it just didn't work too well.
Go figure.
Right? They told the story, but you just missed a lot of the story, So I do like that they have slowed things down and they're making this a series now. I like some of the people they've picked. Now, granted, the age of these kids are anywhere from, what they say, Aang is 11 on up to, I think, Sokka is 15, 16. So these are kids, these are kid actors. And I think the problems that I had with the show is the problems that you run into sometimes when you have children acting. It's not necessarily that they're bad actors. They just haven't come into it yet,
Right.
So I think the passion is there. I think they have done a really good job of picking. Now, I don't know I think there was comic books later on the Avatar. I didn't read those. I am strictly just seen it on TV as they played it on Nickelodeon. So if there's anything outside of that, forgive my ignorance. That's all I know. Now, watching the TV show like I did and the series, I think they're telling the story pretty well. I don't think they're telling it in order because I remember certain things happening before other things did. I don't know if they're going to pull this out to 3 seasons. I don't think they can unless they add more story because we're already to the point where the Fire Nation has fought the Northern Water Tribe, which I'm wanting to say that happened like in season 2 of the Avatar. Like I said, I could be wrong. It's been years since I've watched it, but I like it. They show a part in there where Osan loses his brother in war and how is Ozai, I think the main Fire Lord, kind of was like, oh, too bad, kind of, sorry about you. And, he left him to sit there in his grief by himself. But, God, I'm losing all these names. The kid comes along and, kind of tells him a story that kind of, was a nice story about the uncle and everything. And he sat there with them. Well, one thing that I don't know if everyone picked up, but when I did, in the animated version, when he's telling the story, it's because he sings a song to him. And he's like, where did this come from anyways? And they played the tune of that song during the scene of, this big heavy moment of, he's lost his brother. And I don't know if it was a brother or a son. I like I said, I'm kind of sketchy on details there, but I thought it was beautifully done. Maybe with some of my past coming in, it just kind of, it was a tearful moment, but it was a nice nod to also the animated series, but still got that song in there. So, you knew. I like the way they've done like Apu and Momo. They could have gone cheeseball with them, which is the animals, and they didn't. You could see the cartoon rendition from them very easily. Like I said, all in all, I think the second season of this, which it's already it's been on the top. I think it's top 1 on Netflix right now since it's been released. But I really think the second season, the actors that they have will kind of come into their role a little bit better. And maybe the problem I'm having will kind of fix itself, And like I said, I'm not saying it's bad acting. I'm really not. I think for, like I said, the age group of these kids and even some of the topics that, the Avatar does handle, it was done very well by them. But you know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of, I don't know, sometimes it's played up a little too much, or sometimes something that should have been way played down wasn't.
Right. They don't always spot the subtle things in the script that they could work with.
Yeah.
Just from a lack of experience. It's not anything bad they're doing. Right.
No, it's nothing bad at all. And like you said, it's experience. And I think not only with acting experience, but life.
Sure.
So, but I liked it. I have not read any of the reviews on it. Because right now I'm kind of enjoying liking it. So I think it's 8 episodes. Each one is about an hour long. So they definitely have laid more down than the movie did for sure. But like I said, I feel when you take one medium and transfer it to another, you're going to always have problems. But I think the way that they've done it this time, they've handled some of that problem. And I think it'll be better. For one, just slowing it down. We don't have to throw all of this at you at once, And also I liked like when Jet, he's kind of a side character that was mentioned in the cartoon. It was a whole episode. I think it was a whole episode in this, but in the animated, we got a little bit more of his backstory, which kind of made it drag. No, this is the animated. In this TV series, they did it in a way where we got his backstory. I mean, he did tell us a little bit of it, but he didn't sit down and go, well, I was born. They told it to us while they were still progressing the main story along. We're not going to take you back 20 years and make you watch all this. But it was more of while this was going on, this was coming out too. So I liked that. Of course, I love when they don't flash you back, even to the point of Aang. I do believe the series started with them finding him in the ice, and then they kind of back up a little bit and tell you how he got there. The series starts off with showing you right out the gate. Here's why he's here, what had happened then, exactly how it, so it wasn't a big, long, drawn out whole episode to explain he ran away, It was at the beginning. They took maybe 5 minutes to explain that whole thing to you. So I guess it's so far I like it. I like the stuff they've cut out. I've liked the stuff that maybe not stuff they've added, but the order they've changed things into. I don't see that would be a problem telling the story later, because of course in the Avatar certain things had to happen, to get him where he was, but those things are still happening. It's just the little side missions that they're changing up a little. So I like it. I think if you're a fan of the animated series, you'll definitely like this. They've captured a lot of the likeness from that. So hopefully they learned from the movie, because that movie was bad. I mean, yeah, it was bad.
Well, good. It's nice to know they've learned from the stuff that didn't go so well in that movie.
Yep, and it's almost like they listened,
Hmm.
So
Shocking,
right? They actually listened to the fans on this. But Netflix has actually done a really good job on doing that. It's more of these bigger guys that are kind of like, well, we'll just make our own story. But Netflix seems to understand, no, you've got the story I want to tell. Let's tell it. Don't change it on me. So I will give them that. And they seem to work with the creatives a lot more than what DC and Marvel and all them do too. They actually care where this came from, Lock and Key. They brought in Jonah Hill, tell us. Jonah Hill. That's the cop dude. Totally different guy. But yeah, Joe Hill, they brought him in and was like, what do you think? Neil Gaiman, same thing. What do you think? So, but I can't remember if Netflix did the original movie or not. I think that was Nickelodeon by themselves that did that.
Probably.
I'll have to look that up. So yeah, I gotta hand it to Netflix. I liked it. I guess if you don't like it, let me know, and I'd like to hear why. Why you're wrong.
Ouch.
Yeah, but like I said, I like if there was books or whatever before they did the animated series. I am not aware of any of that. I'm just totally what Nickelodeon was like. Here you go. This is what you need to know. That's what I know.
Right.
So
cool. You enjoyed something.
Yeah,
Kind of nice,
it
right?
was. It was, yeah. And it was a nice little break because it's not all. I mean, yeah, it's doom and gloom, but it's not all hacky and slashy like I normally watch.
It's good to change things up a little every now and then.
Yeah, and with the acting, I think it'll actually be good to the story too, because these kids are learning and growing to be the Avatar or the Waterbender Masters. So I think it'll all work out. I think if Netflix doesn't delay this like all the other big ones are doing right now between their releases, they've got the audience. Keep them. Hit it while it's hot.
Right.
You know?
Cool.
Okay, Mikey.
Well, I didn't watch something new. I watched something very old. And I'm not sure how to feel about this either, because I watched something that I've heard for years is absolutely terrible, and I kind of liked it.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know if Les is gonna back me up on this one or not. I watched a movie called Bride of the Monster.
Uh-huh.
This is from 1955, and it stars Bela Lugosi and Tor Johnson,
Uh-huh.
and is most famous for being directed by Ed Wood. Now, the general scuttlebutt is that everything Ed Wood ever made was complete crap. And I'm not sure I agree at this point. I hadn't seen this before. I haven't watched a lot of Ed Wood movies. I've watched a couple here and there. I mean, Plan 9, obviously. Plan 9 is awesome for its terribleness. It's like a transcendently terrible movie. And so I think I kind of went into this expecting the same thing. But I mean, this is not a fantastic movie or anything. This is not wonderful. This is not Oscar worthy by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, the movies I talk about never are, because where's the fun in that? I'm not good at gushing about things that are great. But other than a few significant flaws, I didn't think this movie was all that bad. I thought it was pretty good. I kind of liked it. It had a story, which is not a given with Ed Wood, in my experience. It had a story that made sense. I mean, there wasn't necessarily a hell of a lot of context provided, but it made sense. People were disappearing in this town, and the local reporter was writing it up as there was some sort of monster. It didn't really go into why she was saying that, but it turned out that wasn't unusual, because Bela Lugosi's character was a scientist who was kind of moving around and actually was doing weird monster type research and had a monster pet thing. And so, and then there's the cop who's in the relationship with the reporter, because the reporter's a lady reporter, and I mean, God, can't leave that distinction out in a 1955 movie. But so then the cop is like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on here, and starts actually investigating, and his investigation sort of makes some sense, and the reporter's doing the same thing on her own, and her stuff makes some sense. I mean, it's simple. It's go out to this old house in the swamp and get kidnapped by the crazy scientist and all that. But honestly, it's fun in that regard. The special effects are terrible. I mean, let's be honest. The monster, it's a squid costume without somebody in it. I mean, let's be honest. It's not fantastic. It doesn't move at all. I mean, you're watching people get just torn apart by the monster, and they're literally laying on a rubber squid on the floor, squirming around, screaming. That's what they're doing. There's no hiding that. But I mean, at least it's not completely stupid. I mean, there's some context for it. I mean, the monster is actually a little bit of a side thing, because what Lugosi's character is doing is he's trying to create a race of Supermen. And I mean, he's failing a lot, which is why people keep disappearing. He's using human subjects. He's kidnapping people out of the swamp and shooting a ray at their faces, and they die. I mean, that's what it looks like anyway. And Tor Johnson is just, of course, he's just a big old dude. He doesn't talk. Bella whacks him with a whip a few times and smacks him around and is otherwise generally nice to him. He's just sort of a big, dumb, mute servant, although he screams a lot. But anyway. And, I mean, the only thing that the only reason the word bride is in the title is because, for some reason, when Bella gets his hands on the reporter, when he goes to shoot the laser thing at her head, he dresses her up in a bride's dress for some reason. That's not entirely clear. But, I mean, other than that, am I crazy for thinking this is actually not a half-bad movie? Liz is like, hell yeah, I've never seen it, and you're crazy. But, yeah.
Well, I know I knew the name. I think there's a movie about him, isn't there?
Ed Wood? Yes.
Yes.
But
Wasn't that your boy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why you knew there was a movie. It's because it was a Tim Burton movie.
Okay. Now looking at his quote body of work, was he a porn writer in the 70s?
No.
Did he live into the 70s?
Don't think he lived into the 70s.
Okay, well, then I've looked. No, I don't.
He might actually. I say that he died in 78. So yeah, he could have. And then, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if over
some
80
of his shorts
lurid
still being
pulp crime
used.
and sex novels. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was just making sure I was looking at the right guy.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I don't think
just because he doesn't look like Johnny Depp. That's why.
Well, when I first pulled it up, I mean, like I said, the first segment comes up is sex orgy and nympho cycler and snow bunnies. So I'm like, I maybe this isn't the movie I saw.
Yeah, I don't think the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I need to watch the movie. I don't like biopics. Is the problem. That's why I have never watched the movie. But I don't think it covers that part of his career that much.
I don't think it does either.
There it does.
Does it?
It does cover Bride of the Monster, because that was one, if I remember correctly, that was a feature that was supposed to come out the year before. Mm-hmm. And they had wranglings with it, and Wood couldn't get it out. So they retitled it.
That's what she said.
Get your minds out of the gutter.
Oh, look at that. These titles, and you're talking about getting the wood out. So I think you did.
Sorry.
Good night, everybody.
You are right. It was looking at the write-up on Bride of the Monster. It was delayed. They'd started shooting it in '54, and it didn't come out until '55.
And I thought it was retitled Bride of the Atom. This movie was covered in the Ed Wood movie.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
And yes,
Yeah,
and you got to see Bela Lugosi rolling around in water with this fake monster, and that didn't have the controls to it, and he was just thrashing around, going, "Son of a bitch, get this thing." So Wood tried. And this was where he was trying to entice, what's her name? Vampira.
Oh, right.
To come do a movie with him. She was going, "You're a freaking loser. Don't waste my time."
Which may have been a direct quote, because she was kind of that blunt.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right. The original premiere of it was under the title Bride of the Atom. changed it shortly thereafter.
Well, I commend you for watching it. I thought it was a fun movie. It was dumb as hell.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing intelligent about it. There's nothing. I mean, context. Like I said, context be damned. It doesn't make it much sense, but so.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as some of the others, for sure. I've seen way worse than this, for sure. Thanks, Les. I'm kidding.
I think we all have.
Oh yeah, we have.
I don't see anything wrong with like B-list movies though.
Right.
I've always liked those a little better because they are kind of weird and not cookie cutter, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's really honestly just a different way to make a movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes not having a script editor turns out a different movie than a movie than a script that does have a script editor. You know, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes who you collaborate with on writing the script makes a difference.
True.
That's just part of what makes it all interesting. And sometimes terrible, but less terrible in this case, I think. I think this movie has gotten a bad rap over the years. I think it's maybe not as terrible as people say. It has merits. I'm gonna stop digging this hole now.
And that is on Prime also.
Yeah.
So.
Then that's worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If nothing else, learn a little something about Ed Wood, right?
Right.
And Bela Lugosi. It's actually an interesting role for him.
And Tor Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And the lead actress of that movie also was I want to say a daughter of a preacher.
There you go.
Who was trying to get a movie about the Bible made. And Ed kept funneling money to his projects, which were not really geared for
The Bible crowd.
The Bible.
Not so much, right?
I could see that.
I'm kind of envious that you got to watch it.
Yep. Oh, interesting side note. The actress we're talking about is Loretta King. Loretta. In the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie, she was played by Juliette Landau.
Yeah.
Who was the daughter of Martin Landau, who played
Bela
Lugosi. Drusilla. But anyway.
Yeah. Drusilla from Buffy.
Yep. Anyway, total non sequitur, but there you go.
Very cool.
Yeah, Martin Landau was really good in that film.
Did he win the Oscar or was he just nominated?
I believe he did win. He did win it.
Yep, he won it.
That might be a reason that I might finally break down and watch it.
I mean, come on.
It's well worth the time.
Martin Landau, come on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. I can't say anything. I've not seen it either, so.
Oh, that's not going to stop you from saying anything. I mean, geez, come on.
No, sure. Okay, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, alrighty, Les.
Well, let's start with my computer's doing okay.
Now the big question is your refrigerator running?
But I do have Sir Raleigh in a can.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
That was supposed to be Prince Albert again.
Either way.
Okay.
Who gives a frick?
It's a tobacco joke. You can bring Walter Raleigh into it. It's fine.
There are a couple of things I saw on YouTube I'd like to bring forward. One is a husband-wife who tell jokes. And usually he will tell her a joke and he'll record everything so he gets her response. They're just short jokes. They're stupid as can be. But to see her reaction is well worth the time.
Are they dad jokes?
They'll toss some dad jokes in there, but mainly they just have bad jokes. The site is Mike and Joelle. They just have little clips, and it's fun just to sit and watch what's going on there. So if you get a chance, just take a couple minutes and take a few of the jokes in. I will say they will more than likely make you laugh, which is nice. The other site that I've been tuning in is, we may have talked about it before. It's Professor of Rock. This is a gentleman that looks at records, and he gives you a little bit of a background for it. Today I watched the story of Big Brother and the Holding Company, Janis Joplin, and how her song, her famous song, Piece of My Heart, was kind of autobiographical, because she was considered an outcast. She had suffered a lot of bullying. And, of course, she left us far too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a nice little background posting about her. So, there again, I recommend this series. And he has covered a lot of different songs, a lot of different groups.
I've seen that channel being offered in my logarithms because of some of the other channels I follow, the rock history and then the gentleman that I'll be talking about here in a little bit. So yeah, I've seen some of the stuff he's offered, and I haven't checked them out yet, but there's been some interesting stuff that he's covered.
Yeah, I've actually watched a few of them, and they're pretty interesting.
Yeah. He came up on mine because I was watching, I think it was like a documentary on Weird Al. And he does one where he talks about, there was a couple of different people who didn't want Weird Al to cover their songs, which was crazy because, the Weird Al effect and everything that was proven, but he does a really good job of really getting into it and telling you the whole story, but he tells it to you in a way that's not a documentary kind of way, but kind of like sitting down with a friend and them just spilling the shit,
Yeah.
So he's easy to watch.
I remember you talk about the whole thing with Weird Al. I remember the VH1 Behind the Music. They talked about when he did Amish Paradise,
Mm-hmm.
which was off of, who is it
Coolio.
again? Coolio's Gangster Paradise,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden he's pissed off that happened, but he shut up once he got the check.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when
Yeah,
she realized what had happened. Well, and not only that, Weird Al made a point to ask everyone.
He always
does.
You know, he covered all of his bases.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that he's ever really gone behind someone's back was Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney was like, yes, please do one of our songs. You know, we want you to do one of our songs. Well, the song he was going to do was Live or Let Die. And instead it was going to be Chicken Pot Pie. And Paul McCartney was like, oh, no, you can't do that. I'm a vegan. You know, if you can do, you know, blueberry pie or something, you know, anything but chicken, I'll let you do it. And Weird Al was like, no, you know, the only time he's actually played that song is at like live shows and things. So, but you can kind of understand where Paul was coming from. You know? But so it was a case of he wanted him to do it, but not
like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, and another one that Al has talked about that he could never talk the guy into letting him do any of his songs was Prince.
Yeah.
Prince was just like, nope.
He thought it was making fun of the music.
Yep.
Which I don't know. I would have liked to have heard Weird Al do a Prince song.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that is a pretty good recommend. I'll make sure we have a link for that one.
And I'll make sure it gets put in the show notes.
Yay!
Woo! Teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo!
There was something else I was going to mention, but I don't remember it right now, so oh well. Was there anything else there, Les?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Les.
For me, I don't remember if I mentioned this last time because it's been a bit, but I've actually been kind of binge watching Star Trek on Pluto TV. There's two channels. There's Star Trek, which shows the original series and Next Generation, and then there's more Star Trek, which I know
Star Trek.
That's true. Well, I mean, it's DS9, but I don't know what else they show. I don't know. I've seen Voyager's there. I don't know about Enterprise, and that's probably all they would be able to show right now is with the other shows being current and elsewhere. So, and I just pointed I pointed this out last week to the guys, and I did it again a while ago. With Next Generation, they are showing the episodes in production order, not necessarily in when the episodes were released, which can be screwy. This most recent time, they showed the first 5 seasons of Next Generation. And I just happened to catch the season 1 episode, Skin of Evil, which Star Trek fans will probably recognize that title as the episode where they kill off Tasha Yar, played by Denise Crosby. So I'm watching this episode, and then the next episode starts up, and the title is Symbiosis. And there's Tasha Yar in her regular station. I'm just like, okay, that's really fucked up. We just killed her off and did the memorial and all that, and now there she is.
Right, we just did her funeral 5 minutes ago. Why is she still standing there?
Right.
Why is she still standing?
So, and I've been spending some time on YouTube. I don't know if I've ever put this out there for y'all in the audience to listen, but one of the ones I religiously watch. He posts 3 times a day. It's Misfit Corner Scams. This is I've talked about him before. This is the guy who takes the call and basically battles the scammers by using logic and just asking questions, which screws them up. Matter of fact, I posted one today in our Discord, which, hey, we got a Discord. Come join us.
Yeah.
There's an invite on our homepage, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net.
We slid that in there good.
Get that out of the way.
It's like we've been doing this for 8 years or something.
Yeah. So the scam is, hey, there's a new Medicare card coming, and your old one's going to be deactivated here real soon. And in this one that I posted, I don't know. The scammer's just freaking moron. But he's going through with like, well, I know you got Medicare, but I got to verify you. Well, why you got to verify me if you already know I've got Medicare? Why, And this is going around and around and around and around. It just, oh my God. It's just, and of course the card is a gold card. It's supposed to protect you from scams and fraudulent claims. And you're going like the one that you're trying to do. It's just, he's good, and it's just simple. It's just simple logic. It's simple questions going. It's not anything. Sometimes they get tricked up by him saying, "Okay, who are you calling from? What's the name of your company?" They don't know. It's not in the script, so they can't tell them. So it just. It's funny. I definitely tell you to check him out. Okay. For this week, we have an interview. We haven't done one of these in a while.
Because no one will talk to us.
No.
Right?
2/3, don't it? Oh.
This week we have Jaleigh Johnson, author of several Dungeons and Dragons novels, and she created the World's Solace series and so forth. She has a new book coming out. It's entitled Dungeons and Dragons: The Fallbacks, Bound for Ruin, which comes out March 5th. So, without any further ado, here's that interview. And we're here with Jaleigh Johnson, author of several novels, including a few Dungeons and Dragons, including Unbroken Chain, A Darker Road, and last year's Honor Among Thieves, The Road to Neverwinter. She has her own series, World of Solace, which The Mark of the Dragonfly was a New York Times bestseller. She's joined us today to talk about her new book, which is coming out March 5th from Random House Worlds, Dungeons and Dragons: The Fallbacks, Bound for Ruin. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. Let's go ahead and why don't you give us a brief synopsis of what the story is about?
So the Fallbacks are a brand new adventuring party. They have been put together by this ambitious young rogue named Tessalind, or Tess, and she wants to be the best. She wants to be the best adventurer and to lead the best party of adventurers in Faerûn. And so as she goes about recruiting this dream team, she ends up getting a lot more than she bargained for, and getting in over her head and with her and the rest of her party members. And their very first job together results in them getting this ancient magical spell book that turns into, rather than like, a fantasy novel where you have to obtain the mysterious magical artifact to achieve some end, they get this spell book and discover that it is this malevolent, foul, vile, evil, hates you and wants you to fail at life magical tome, and they have to find a way to get rid of it and also survive its influence along the way. So that's what sends them off on their adventure.
Woo!
And shenanigans ensue.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes, there are shenanigans for sure. So, hopefully to not go too far into things, we've got the leader Tess, we've got a bard, we've got a cleric, we've got a wizard, and we've got a fighter. Honestly, a pretty standard group of adventurers in terms of pen and paper D&D, we'll say. I mean, part of me wants to ask how intentional that was. I mean, obviously it's a Dungeons and Dragons book. There's a lot of that. How much influence does pen and paper bring to this for you?
Well, the idea was, like you said, you have a lot of these core classes. You got your fighter, rogue, wizard, cleric. You got your bard and your pet monster too, because everyone's got to have a pet monster.
Okay, you mentioned the pet monster. Now we can go there.
Yeah, no, that's not a spoiler. That's out there, and in the descriptions and the press stuff, and is on the cover. So yeah, we're okay there. Like I said, I haven't been blow darted by assassins, so we're fine. Not
yet. We're not there yet.
So yeah. So you have these core character classes, and the idea was kind of that gives a good introduction, to D&D and to Forgotten Realms, to this, using these core characters to people who might be new to the game, new to the setting, and just discovering the hobby. That gives them an entry point by using these core classes. And then, but they each have their own little spin, their own little something unique, whether it's in the class itself or their, the character backgrounds or backstory, just gives them a little twist for, longtime fans and players, and to kind of sink their teeth into. So it's something that that was intentional for both longtime fans and newcomers.
Yeah, see, for me, it's been a long time, actually, since I've read a D&D book, a D&D novel specifically. And one of the things that has obviously happened since then, and I may be jumping around a lot here, but that's okay.
Sure.
Well, I guess this is a two-part question. One, are you a fan of Critical Role? And two, how much do you think that has influenced D&D books in general and Bound for Ruin in particular?
I am a Critical Role fan. I think the influence for me, though, comes from the fact that, I've been playing this game for years and have this D&D has been an important part of my life for a very long time. I tell people the story. I blame my older brother for getting me into the hobby in the first place, because my older brother, Jeff, he's 11 years older than I am. So to put that in perspective, when I was 5 years old, he was 16. And I have these vivid memories of being 5 years old and sitting in our parents' garage, on a lawn chair, listening to my brother and his friends play Dungeons and Dragons. And that was my first introduction to the game from that young. And I just remember being just absorbed by it and fascinated by it. It was, to me, it was like, as a kid, it was like the best form of make-believe. I wanted to get in on it. I thought, I can do this. I want this. And that led me to fantasy novels and stories, and to finally getting to join my brother's gaming group and I mean, those members of it that we still play with today. I mean, I'm a DM now for my husband and my brother and our friends. And so I think a lot of the influence there comes from just years and years of being exposed to that game and the joy it kind of brought and added to my life. That's where a lot of that comes from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, and I find it interesting. Part of why I asked the question that way is because as much as I recognize the influence of Critical Role on the industry and on the hobby, I've never managed to be able to get into it. I don't know. Watching people play D&D doesn't appeal to me. I mean, I played for decades.
Are you mostly a player or a DM?
I am mostly a player.
Yeah.
I've had the same DM for 30 plus years now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I mean, we haven't had a specific campaign go that long, and we've dabbled in other games too. But I mean, we're in a 5th ed game right now. Not right this minute, obviously, but we were just playing a couple of weeks ago.
That's great.
I wish we could play more often, but we're middle-aged now, and that doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, and if you had told me back in the day when I was first, getting started into D&D and playing, that it would become what it has become now, I mean, that would have been, amazing to me. It would have been, mind-blowing for 16-year-old Jaleigh to hear that. And sometimes even I'll be running a session for my players, and like I said, my brother plays in the campaign, and just a few weeks ago he turned to me, over the DM screen, and he's like has this huge grin on his face. He's like, "We're still playing D&D." He's like, "We still get to do this even after so long. This is still a part of our lives." He's like, "That's just so cool." And he was absolutely right, and I completely agree. It's amazing how far we've come.
Oh, Jaleigh, you don't even know. I started playing basically right at the beginning of the Satanic Panic.
Oh yeah, I caught the tail end of it, and my brother was in the midst of it. It's even more mind blowing for him because it's like to talk about people who are famous for playing D&D, and back in the day, you said something about somebody being famous for playing D&D. It's like, well, famous because they're going to hell for playing D&D. That was the message that was out there.
Yeah, so Satanic Panic in the Bible Belt. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, there were times when I had to stop playing D&D because the people around me were just losing their minds, and family members asked me to stop, and it was and I was like 11, 12, 13 years old at the time. Yeah.
Oh man.
So I'm with you.
Yeah, and just see all the changes now. I mean, when I was talking about my background at school visits, and I would mention D&D, and they would, the students would say, "Oh yeah, we have a Dungeons and Dragons club," and I'm, wow.
Yeah, my friend who's been my DM for 30 some odd years. Yeah, he now runs a D&D club at the middle school he teaches at.
That's fantastic.
I mean, he could never have dreamed of that even 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That he was teaching 20 years ago would probably make him give me a heavy sigh, but
So that's about the time I found out about Dungeons and Dragons. I was a preacher's kid, so I knew nothing about that until everyone started complaining and the cartoon popped up on TV, and it was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I mean, they're saying no. Oh yeah, we have to do this. So, of course, great. I had a sister who was always encouraging too. So we did that.
Love having that family connection.
Yeah.
And we talk about on the show all the time how being a preacher's kid is a special experience.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Not all good, but
formative ways.
Yeah.
We're going to call it that.
It's definitely made me who I am, so.
Do you still play?
No, not as I haven't in years. When we've all worked together or been at the same store together at one time or point, and we'd always talked about putting one together.
Mm-hmm.
But no, now Mikey, he has a life and he plays without us, so. But yeah,
Well,
we had
I'm,
thought about putting one together online,
yeah, you should.
and you know,
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about trying to do one on our Discord. The thing is, we were trying to find a DEM,
yeah,
and yeah, that's been kind of that's been really the tough thing. But
we got close a few times.
yeah, well, I mean, our best opportunity is not here anymore. So that's
Yeah,
bring. I don't want to bring everything down, but yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
I didn't know there was a lot of books about Dungeons and Dragons, honestly. So that's pretty cool. And definitely reading this, you can tell that you not only are you talking the talk, that you've walked it. So that was pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I remember my brother, when I was, again, wanting to join his group and I was getting into fantasy novels, one of the first things he gave me was the Dragonlance Chronicles. He said, here, try this adventuring party and see what you think. And yeah, by the end of reading that, I was actively taking his Forgotten Realms novels and reading them before he could. And I remember he bought Spellfire, and I took it from him and read it first because he's like, "Where's my book?" And I remember that very vividly. I'm like, I don't know.
I'm sure it'll turn up eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get it back. The pages dog-eared.
Maybe
So what does he think about all the books you've written?
He loves it. He loves it. He's been very encouraging. Both all my family really, because my first published novel, The Howling Delve, was actually a Forgotten Realms novel. So my first ever novel contract was for Wizards of the Coast, and I like to tell this story because it was an example of me doubting myself and my family kind of swooping in to help me achieve something, because Wizards of the Coast, this was back in 2005 or 6, they had an open call and a contest because they wanted to hire some more new writers, bring in some new authors. And so they had a contest to write a book in one of their series, and they asked people to send a writing sample and a pitch. And at the time, I was just trying to get published. I was in my mid to late 20s trying to get published, not having much success. And I remember reading about this opportunity and, telling my family about it. And I was like, I had no intention of entering, because I was like, this is D&D, this is Forgotten Realms, this is way above me. And I told my mother that, and she was like, why would you ever think you're not good enough? She's like, you need to enter this contest. She's like, she didn't know much about fantasy or the Forgotten Realms or anything at all, but she said, you love this. She said, you should enter it. And so did my brother. And I was like, well, nothing's going to come of it. And they're like, it doesn't matter. You need to try. You're not going to know unless you try. So they made me submit an entry. And yeah, they made me submit an entry. I did not win the contest, but Wizards also used the opportunity to pick out some of the pitches and samples that they really liked, and it resulted in me and a handful of other authors getting novel contracts in the future, and that became the second pitch that I submitted to them ended up being The Howling Delve in the Dungeons series. So that was, and my mom got to say, "Oh, told you."
That's awesome.
Cool.
That is awesome.
So yeah, my family's been very supportive.
Okay, so let's actually maybe look into the book itself a little bit.
Oh,
Bound for Realm.
sorry.
What?
I'm good at the extra stuff.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mikey.
Okay. So let's take a little closer look at the book itself, the new one. One of the things I found interesting, being, I mean, obviously an old person who's played a good bit of D&D, was Baldric. That is an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Baldric is, again, it's that idea of you take a core class, the cleric, but just give it a little twist, just a little bit of a unique spin. I love Baldric because I love that idea that he's not committed to a single deity when, he has the opportunity to bargain with many D&Ds, many deities, when you speak here. When you can bargain with many deities, why not? Why not take advantage of that for as long as I can and see where that takes me, see the good and the bad that happens from that. So I think, yeah, he's a very interesting character. You're right.
Yeah, that is definitely a cool take. I did. I'm a little jealous because I would love to have been able. I would love to be able to play that class, that cleric variant. However, it would work out in pen and paper would be really fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would love it if people would, see these core classes and and if it sparks ideas for their own home games, so much the better. It gives them ideas about different ways you can play a cleric and, these different classes, and it gives them inspiration. I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah, the flexibility it would give you as a player would just be really. Sorry, I'm part of the deal is that in my game right now I'm playing a cleric, and he's nothing like that, and that would be really cool. I mean, I'm having fun playing my cleric, but that would just be that's a fun twist.
Well, talk to your DM.
I know, right?
Say, have a private conversation. Say, hey, what if I want to branch out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What there are other. You know that there are other deities out there. What? Why wouldn't they talk to me?
Yeah. Why wouldn't they take my call?
Absolutely. And actually thinking of it in that way is a very kind of modern take on the whole thing. I like it.
Oh, sure.
It's like the cell phone to the gods.
Nice. I thought that the cell phone to the gods. I just send a quick text to Lathander here.
Right. No kidding. Oh wait, I need this guy. This guy. I need to hurt this guy. Leviatar. What do you got for me?
What do you do for me?
And okay, so the sixth member of the party. We have to talk about this. We have to talk about Uggy.
Uggy.
Tell me about Uggy.
I'm not supposed to play favorites, but I would die for this monster. I would just, yeah, she is. You're not ready for Uggy. No one's ready for Uggy. It's just, yeah, she's just the best. I can't spoil. There's so many things I want to say. Although I guess I can say this much because I've seen it out there on Twitter. So this or Dex or whatever. So this is not a spoiler, but there is a Uggy does get her own point of view chapter. So.
I was going to hint at it if you didn't say something. I was going to point out that every party member gets at least one point of view chapter, and
yes, and Uggy is no exception.
Uggy is no exception.
Yeah. So yeah, that was some fun times. That was some fun times, and that was some fun times in the editing, talking about should Uggy do this or Uggy that? We're talking about this ODU monster.
Oh, your poor editor! Holy cow!
Talking about that. I saved some of the line edits from that interaction because it's some of the best, most entertaining line edits I've ever gotten.
Oh,
I wish
I'm
I
sure.
could share them. I wish I could share them.
I'm sure that would be awesome. I could envision the line edits for that chapter being longer than the chapter also.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know nothing, but I could just imagine.
It's pretty entertaining. Yeah, but yes, the editor was Uggy is beloved.
Uggy almost has to be, but yeah, Uggy's
Yeah.
great. All right, so since we want to be careful not to get too spoilery, let's
Mhm.
maybe shift gears a little bit. Tell us about World of Solace.
Oh, okay, sure. I can do that. It's the Mark of the Dragonfly is actually coming up, I believe, on March 25th. It'll be 10 years since the first book in that series was released. So, yeah, it's quite a milestone. Yeah, that was my first original release, my first middle grade release. The book that hit the New York Times list. It changed my career in a lot of ways and provided me with a lot of great opportunities to tour nationally and talk to schools and students, and yeah, all about this world where lost things from other worlds end up in they crash down to this planet in these meteor storms, and these scrappers collect the items and clean them up and sell them to make a living, and that idea of this profession in this world was where Piper, my scrapper, was born, and she's also one of my favorite characters that I've ever written. Yeah, that book and that series changed a lot of things, and they were a blast to write.
That's wild. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it really was. Well, it was the first. It was the first. It was a fantasy book my first fantasy book where I got to have my own map. It was like one of my dreams was to write a fantasy book that had its own map, because that was one of the things where a lot of those fantasy books and, the Forgotten Realms books and stuff had maps in them, and just, I remember growing up, looking at those maps and studying them and thinking about the different places, and it just sparking my imagination. And to finally, get a book with my own map of my own world in it, I mean, that was quite emotional when that happened. So, yeah.
See, and you say that about maps. I mean, you've been playing D&D long enough. Do you remember using graph paper at the table?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I remember using the graph paper. I remember I was really bad at mapping too.
Oh, me too.
It was always someone else that would do the mapping, because it was too stressful and I was bad at it. But yeah, I was all about the graph paper.
Mm-hmm. See, we had graph paper. Now you go on crowdfunding sites, and people are publishing books of fantasy maps just all over the place. It's just insane. You can just go nuts. That's one of the things my DM has just gone and just bought tons of these things, and he'll just whip out this spiral bound thing that he bought on Kickstarter or whatever, and just flip it open to a specific map, and boom, there it is. And he'll lined up like when we were playing the other day, he had like 3 of them lined up next to each other because the map was that big.
Wow.
And they make them to scale for the minis, for the little squares, and oh man, it's just madness. And we had graph paper and a pencil when we started.
These kids nowadays, they don't know how good they got it.
I know, right? Well, hey, if it's any consolation, we have to be middle-aged to be able to afford to buy all these things. So anyway.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so there are 3 books in the Solace series?
Yes, 3 books in the Solace series. Yeah, Mark of the Dragonfly and Secrets of Solace and Quest to the Uncharted Lands. They all 3 of them take place in the same world, but they follow different characters in each book. So.
See, that's cool, because a lot of times you get, I mean, it happens in fantasy, but it happens in other genres also. You get a series that's fixated on a character. And, I mean, after a while, after 5 or 6 books, I mean, what are you doing new with that character? How does that character change? to base it on the world itself and build a world that way, as opposed to building a single character. That's awesome. That's more interesting to me than building on one character.
Yeah, I really did love developing that world in that way. And another consideration too with the having different characters is when you're dealing with like a middle grade audience, they age out of those books so quickly that if you're publishing, you know, a long running series like that, following the same character, same storyline, you know, by the time you finish those books, you know, the readers will have aged out of them and moved on. So it's kind of like it gives them, it's better to give them, you know, the different characters throughout each book. And yeah,
Right.
just,
It's almost self-defeating to try to do it on one character.
yeah.
Because of that, yeah. Because it
But
takes
I have,
time.
yeah. And having said that, though, I do still get emails from kids discovering the books now who they just want a sequel to Mark the Dragonfly. They really, really do. They want a sequel. I think it's because, honestly, because in the Mark of the Dragonfly, the main characters have a crush on each other, and I think they really wanted to see more of that, even though it's a middle grade book, so it's aimed at a younger audience, so there's not much in the way of romance, but I really think they wanted that. They wanted more of those characters. So it's hilarious to me that 10 years on, people are still, you know, kids are still discovering those books and, you know, still saying, are you going to write more about Piper and G? It's so funny.
11-year-olds want resolution to the romance. And, yeah,
They do. They do indeed, yes. Yeah, I underestimated how much the 11-year-olds would want the romance.
That's funny. Do you approach middle grade differently from other fiction, from like the D&D stuff, for example?
The biggest difference, and this was something I had not expected going into middle grade, was that, and I should have, to be fair, but I didn't, is the pacing has to be lightning quick for middle grade. That was something, that was something that I had to learn the hard way. Kids with, I mean, shorter attention spans, but also so many other things that they can do with their time, you know, and to hold their attention, you know, the book's got to move, the plot has to move. There can be no room for the boring parts, you know, no room to slow down. So you have to learn to, you know, to get the story in on the move. And I think in some ways that helped me become a better writer in general, because it helped tighten my writing and tighten my pacing and, you know, getting as much as I could done in as short amount of time as possible. Because I remember after those books were published and moving back into writing for adults, I had editors that would both compliment me and say, oh, wow, this is really tightly paced, tightly plotted, good job. And editors who would also say, you know, you can slow down in this scene a little bit and take some more time with the characters and, you know, talk a little bit more. You know, you don't have to rush through this. But that's just had been in my mind for so long that, you know, short chapter, you got to get in, you got to get out, you got to communicate the information and keep things moving. Because, I mean, asking kids and adults, you know, to take time to read your book nowadays when there's not only so many other books out there, but so many other forms of entertainment. I mean, you're asking a lot of them. And so you have to, you know, be aware of that and to try to make it worth their time. So I try to be cognizant of that.
Right. You're competing with a 7-minute YouTube video.
Exactly. And that's hard.
Right.
It's really hard. Sometimes it's not even 7 minutes. Sometimes it's 2.5 minutes over and over and over again.
Well, we won't get started on the TikTok thing, but anyway.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting because you're actually teaching me something here because
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because I have a son and he's in high school and we've had just a hell of a time getting him to kind of progress with the complexity of his reading. He just got stuck on the middle grade books and just wouldn't get off of them. And what you said makes that entirely make sense to me now. Because, I mean, admittedly, he's a little bit ADHD. And so the attention span thing, that clicks for me. I get it now. And that's why he doesn't, because anything else that he reads, you start moving him up to high school level stuff, and it slows down. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just great that he's reading too, because I mean, yeah, competing against all the other distractions, all the other media. I mean, just to have people want to read your stuff, I mean, or to read in any age category is outstanding. I mean, that's great. That's what we want.
Absolutely. Believe me, we've had to fight a bit for it at our house. But yeah, which, I mean, I'm literally sitting in a room that is full of books. And so, I mean, it's not like they're not available, but yeah,
Sure.
getting him to kind of slow down and do that is a challenge, and it's still a challenge a little bit. And he doesn't hate us for it at this point, but who knows what his therapist will learn later on. But anyway.
My parents made me read. It was awful.
Just because he does it for a living doesn't mean I have to.
Yeah,
Right.
why do I have to do it? No, but I think, I mean, even as adults, I love to read. I would read all the time if I had time, but at the same time, I can also see myself, grabbing the phone more when I could be grabbing the book, and I succumb to the distractions too, as much as anyone does, and or just my brain being tired, and I want the 5-minute YouTube video or whatever, before I go to sleep, and sometimes I have to, talk to myself and remind myself, hey, this is, what you love. You need to put the time and the effort into doing it, or else you're not gonna cultivate that. So I mean, I'm not immune either.
Sure, and it's easy to grab the phone and lie to yourself and convince yourself that Twitter and Facebook and all of those, oh yeah, there are words there, I'm reading. Yet no, because again, it's that 20-second thing. Yes, you read that thing and it takes 20 seconds, but does that really contribute much? I mean, you'll get arguments both ways. 5. Right, you'll get arguments both ways on that, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about, especially, I mean, for me, like I said, a teenage kid that I have to kind of process that for and figure out how to communicate with him about it. And I don't want to yell at him if I can help it,
No,
I don't want to be that guy.
And just the world and the technology being so different than when we were growing up. I mean, yeah, it's a whole learning curve.
Right. I mean, the deal is he probably absorbs information faster than I do because of it all. And I mean, I'm a little jealous in a way. I'd love to be able to parse information that fast, but my old slow brain, I learned to do it on stone tablets like everybody else my age. And
graph paper.
I mean, it's rough. All right, let me throw this one at you. We talked about D&D. What other role-playing games have you tried?
Let's see. Let me comb the depths of my brain for the past. Not that many other role-playing games. The one that immediately springs to mind from back in the 90s would be Shadowrun. We dabbled in Shadowrun. We skirted the edges of Vampire the Masquerade, just the very edges of that.
That's a whole different ballgame right there.
Yeah, and nothing remains of those experiences for me to be able to talk intelligently about them, because again, that was the 90s. I've much more done like miniature games, and board games now are much more what we do and what we have time to do. So yeah, but those are the ones that immediately spring to mind. Yeah, we were into those back in the day.
Yeah, see, you're talking an old GURPS head here. It's like the second most complex game ever. And that's where we went. And honestly, we mostly just did fantasy in that. But Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different feel for sure.
Mhm.
So I mean, how much do you get into like video games and stuff of that nature these days since there's so prevalent
Oh,
now?
yeah. I mean, I get into them. I wish I don't have number one as much time, and I have back issues. So sitting at the computer or
Mm,
sitting and doing a video game on console, I get really tense. I get super tense in my back, so I can't do them for long stretches the way I used to.
hmm
But I mean, I've played some Baldur's Gate 3 most recently. I was heavily into the Dragon Age games and the Mass Effect games. I'm a BioWare girl. So yeah, and I have a Switch, so I've done some Legends of Zelda and things like that. But yeah, I just am limited on time and on the fact that I'm old. Old and not able to sit and get as tense like that for as long, especially with like the first person shooters and stuff like that. I used to do some of those, a little bit of Halo, and some Destiny, but I almost can't do those anymore because I get too tense.
Yeah, I could never do first person shooters. I just suck at them. I mean, it's that simple.
Oh yeah,
But
I was
yeah.
I was horrible at them, but there was something compelling about playing Destiny with the three-person teams. I played with my husband and my brother-in-law, and we played that for quite a while. I think it was a good year and a half. We played that, but that was the last time because yeah, I had back troubles right after that, and that I had to retire.
Ooh, yeah, that's rough. Yeah, see, I feel you with the back thing. I blew out a disc in my lower back several years ago, and sitting in a desk chair doesn't work anymore. So
No,
I'm
no,
with
I
you.
have to move around. You got to stand up. Yeah, you just yeah. I had to
hmm
increase the exercise quite a bit to compensate.
Yeah, I'm not that smart, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and honestly, the game that I still play quite a bit of is Dungeons and Dragons Online. Honestly,
Oh yeah,
it's still
yeah.
around, strangely
That's
enough.
awesome. That's great though.
Yep.
It's
So,
another way to get the D&D in your life.
yeah, I have to because, like, for example, the whole COVID thing, we didn't play D&D for like a year because my DM refuses to do it online. He refuses to do anything like Discord or Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or any of that stuff, and so
Yeah.
he's doing. I'm doing it in person or I'm not doing it at all. I'm like, all right, man. See you in a year.
I kind of get that though because we batted that idea around with our group during the pandemic, specifically so that we could pull in our friend from Colorado and get him involved. But yeah, I couldn't envision how that was going to work and how I was going to I just I need to have people in front of me, and I know you can have it on a screen, but I need to be able to feel the room. I need to be able to feel the vibe. I need to be able to um, watch my characters, my players' reactions in real time in the room and feel that energy. So I can see some people being really good at that, at doing the online thing, but I just don't think that I would be very good at it.
Right, and I mean, from what I've been told, that's the big challenge is that it gets harder to read people's reactions to things when what you're seeing is a 2D image on a camera. And I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, I mean, like you get into even today with like business meetings, you get people with the weird backgrounds behind them and all that stuff, and it interferes with how you read them.
Sure.
And so, yeah, yeah, I'm not totally sad that we didn't get into that at the time. I did dabble in it with another group at one point. Um, we did it was actually that was fun. That was a Call of Cthulhu kind of a mini campaign we
Ooh.
did, and that was a lot of fun. But we actually we did like 2 sessions online, and then we were like, screw this, we just need to meet in person and do the rest of this. We kind of gave up on it pretty fast.
Well, so let me ask you this on the subject of your this group doing if you were to ever do a D&D with this group here,
hmm
um, who would want to DM for that?
Oh,
Who do you think would DM?
I think that's the problem is that none of us want to.
Well, but I bet one of you would be good at it.
Oh, I don't know.
I bet one of you could take on the mantle.
See, you're
Not me.
of the four of us, I probably have the most experience playing the game.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. We'd force Mikey to do it.
But I've also DM'd before, and I'm not particularly good at it. So.
Oh, but you have DM'd before. Now we get to the meat
All
of
right,
the matter.
you're proving to be a troublemaker here, and I don't know how I'm feeling about that.
Oh, rabble rouser. I rouse one.
Hey, yeah, raffles are fun to rouse. I'm a fan. But not when it's directed at me, dang it.
Right. I'm liking it because normally it's directed at me.
Yeah, tonight's not over yet, Liz. You'll get yours. No,
Get 'em.
There's still time.
there's still time.
Right.
Yeah, but and the other thing is that even in the little bits of time when I have done it, man, it's time consuming. And
Oh, yeah.
finding time to do anything now is difficult. So I just that's why I haven't stepped up and volunteered to just try it. But I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe someday.
Finding the time is definitely the challenge. I have found though that my players have, and I suspect other players would be like this as well, they have an incredible ability to just fumble around and stall and waste time and talk about things, plans that their characters have in a session. Sometimes I don't need to prepare much material at all. I just sit back and watch them,
Well,
stew in their own juices. So maybe you wouldn't have to prepare as much as you might think.
see, the kicker with that is that you'd never know when they're going to do that versus when they're going to bear down and follow the trail that you lay out for them. And the next thing you know, you're through what you thought was 3 sessions worth of planning in one session. And it's kind of hard to gauge. That's all. That's my excuse. Yeah.
That's your excuse. I'll accept that. I've done my job. I've planted the seed. Now I'm just gonna step back.
Yeah, just throw a little water and back away. Thanks. Appreciate
Throw the
that, Jaleigh.
I'll let your companions, try to convince you.
I'm sure they'll try. You planted the seed there. That's where you planted the seed, not in me. But anyway.
You are making notes, aren't you, Les?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm into volume 3 right now.
Oh, good.
One might even say this is being recorded. But anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
but you're the editor, so.
That's correct. I am. That's part of why I don't have time for this crap. But anyway. Plant that seed while we're at it.
Special podcast episode, our first D&D session. D&D plus content equals success.
Yeah, success. I don't think we're ready for that. Anyway. Why
That's
start now?
I like that idea.
Oh, God.
Gonna have to look at the schedule. All right.
Glad you're enjoying yourself, Jaleigh. I really am.
I could lie and say I wasn't. Do you want me to show myself out? I can show myself out.
No, please stay.
Yeah, they're enjoying it too. It's, it's all good. Anyway. All right, now that we've completely wandered off, so are there any other little tidbits you can tell us about the book that will release on March 5th? Fallbacks,
No,
Bound for
I
Ruin.
think I've given you just about all the tidbits that I am allowed to give you. I can hear the assassins outside the door, my office waiting. I think if I go any further, they're going to come into the room.
Boom, 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 boom. Candygram. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and
Nice.
but we're almost to the release. Next week, it'll be here.
Yep.
The doors will be open. The spoilers will abound.
It'll be fun to see the reaction.
Mhm.
I expect it will be a nice reaction.
Yeah, I'm both excited and it's nerve-wracking too.
I'm sure.
Anytime there's a book release, it's always the same. It's always excitement and terror.
And talking to people like us for all the good and bad that those things bring.
No, you all have been great.
All right. Well, in that case, Jaleigh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Open invite.
We will drop links to everything we can in our show notes so that people will know where to find you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
And we'll be back in a bit with the rest of the show.
And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring news items to the table for discussion. This week, I'm flying solo, and it's not really a news item, but I thought it was something of interest. This is one of the guys I follow on YouTube. His name is Rick Beato. He is a musician, producer. Does a lot of stuff in the music industry, but he's been running a YouTube channel for a couple years now. He's actually got 2 of them. I've posted a couple items on Discord. One of them I thought was really interesting. It was entitled "How Corruption and Greed Led to the Downfall of Rock," which, if you've not listened to that, you should really check that out. But anyway, this new one, which came out, it's been about almost a couple weeks old. He was approached by the folks at Chart Cipher, who looks at trends on Billboard charts. It kind of looks at all the numbers and tries to figure out trends that are happening. And he had some fun with this because he's a really big geek for this kind of stuff, and I was interested in as well. I thought it was kind of cool, so that's why I wanted to bring it to the table. Now, some of the stuff Chart Cipher does the trends on is like, hell, the use of profanity, prevalence of certain instruments, tempo trends of songs, which, for the record, it's trending slower. But anyway, first thing he brought up was genre. And from 2022 to 2023, hip-hop went down 37%, from 43% to 27% of the chart.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Rock went up 58%, from 12 to 19%. Well, I mean, you got the others like jazz and pop and da-da-da-da-da. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that was really interesting. Country, it went up. You want to guess what the percentage amount was? It went up?
Let's see.
41.
Beyonce just put out one, so I'm going to say at least 60% because
Beyonce
that
put
brought
out a
in a
country
whole
song?
crowd. Yeah, 2.
Oh, wow.
Well, but this is from 2022 to 2023, so if it just came out, it's not going to be affected. It's not going to affect this. It went up 135%.
Damn.
From 8 to 20%.
Damn.
And the other thing that caught my attention was length of song. Currently, and of course, this is the age of TikTok. We've already talked about TikTok quite a bit tonight.
Mm.
Current songs are trending under 3 minutes. And he talks about he tells a story about him taking his daughter to school, and she was wanting to listen to some new music. So he started it up. The first song was like 2 minutes 18 seconds. The next one was like 2 minutes 20 seconds, and then the third one was like 2 minutes 15 seconds. And she makes a remark, all these are in 3 minutes. I was like, yeah. Yep. So what he decides to do is he pulls out the Red Album, the Beatles from 1962 to 1966, and looks and checks out the song links there. Ticket to Ride is the only song that's 3 minutes or over. Everything else is under 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts talking about that. It doesn't feel like, and I agree, it doesn't feel like, a song that's 2 minutes 30 seconds, where opposed to songs today, which are basically verse, chorus, verse, chorus, a bridge, chorus, fade out. Where the Beatles songs are a little bit more. There's a little bit more meat to it.
Is there, though?
They're more of a story. They told more of a story.
Sometimes. I mean, you could argue that some of the stuff today tells a story, too. Not all, granted, but I think the deal here is that the time in between, that song length had grown significantly.
Oh yeah, I was about to go into that.
Yeah.
During the 1950s, the average length of a song was 2 minutes 46 seconds. In the 90s, it went all the way up to 4 minutes 14 seconds. And as of the 2020s, is 3 minutes 15 seconds. And in the chart he shows, it's actually broken down by decades. I just grabbed those.
Mm-hmm.
Then he also wondered, well, how long was Teen Spirit? How long was that? How long that song is?
Smells Like Teen Spirit was 3.5, maybe?
Was it? Only a couple of verses.
Right.
5:01.
Damn.
God, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that surprised me too.
Huh.
Man in the Box by Alice in Chains is 4 minutes 45 seconds. Black Hole Sun is by Soundgarden, 5 minutes 18 seconds. Which surprised me too. It surprised me with that one too. That's like, that doesn't feel like a 5 minute 18 second song.
I mean, it's a pretty slow tempo.
Well, it's a slow tempo.
Yeah.
It's slow tempo, but
Yeah.
it does. But it doesn't feel like, still.
Mm-hmm.
And back when they played it all the time on the radio, it felt like a 20-minute song.
Not a Soundgarden fan, huh?
No, not really.
That is very much not their best song. But anyway.
No, it's not. I think the kids used to sing it as bathtub scum.
Nobody sent that idea to Weird Al. Come on, man.
Right.
A little late now.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, all in all, it was very interesting to listen and look at these numbers. So we'll definitely have that in the show notes.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah, see, I would have thought that the initial shortness of songs was as much a technological thing as anything else. I mean, you could only fit so much on one side of a 45.
Yeah.
That's what
true.
I would think.
That's true.
Well, and like you guys were saying, the TikTok age,
Attention spans are different than they were
Right.
Well,
20 years ago even.
that, and I don't think a TikTok can be longer than 3 minutes. Isn't there used to be? I don't know. TikTok's
I
never
think-
been my thing.
I think you even have to work up to that. I
Yeah.
think you start out at something like 30 seconds or something, and you have to
Yeah.
have a certain number of followers or whatever, some metric that allows you to open up larger
Time.
times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Interesting.
Pretty neat.
If that video doesn't scratch your nerd itch, I don't know what will.
well, it certainly did mine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was grateful to come across that. That was a fun watch.
Yeah, and Rick Beato does a lot of interesting stuff. Obviously, you go to his channel and he's got a bunch of different types of videos. I mean, ranging from like a 45-minute breakdown of one song,
Right.
to stuff like industry trends and stuff like that, and he does interviews with people, and he's all over the place, and there's a lot of fun stuff there.
It was so funny how the whole thing blew up here real recently with him doing the video about Christopher Cross's hidden solo on "Run Like the Wind," which if you've not seen the video, he was able to find a track to where he can actually pull the guitar solo out from everything else, and it's a hell of a solo. Christopher Cross is a really good guitarist, but
from a genre in which you wouldn't have necessarily known that.
Right.
That's the interesting part, is that.
But it blew up so much that Christopher Cross actually showed up to do an interview because it got back to him.
Cool.
About this whole thing. And they talked about that a little bit. He's like, yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a record that has Steve Lukather and Eric Johnson. I mean, come on. I was like, okay, well, why you keep it humble,
Fair enough. That's the other thing that Rick Beato does occasionally, is he will rant about artists who will shut down videos because they don't want their music played.
Oh yeah.
He'll go off every couple of months. He will drop a video going off on that, because he plays other artists' music a lot. That's part of his deal, and because mainly he's analyzing their stuff and basically telling you how great it is. And there are a lot of artists out there that just don't care. They don't want people talking, but they don't want their shit played if they're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, he does a great job, and his taste is so wide it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's because of him that I've been learning of some artists that I'm going back and checking out. So I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you folks heard the new Billy Joel song?
I have not. I have seen it in my algorithms, but I haven't actually played it yet.
It's really well done. And you think about it and you go, that guy quit this business a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's coming back, but he's coming back strong. That's the nice thing.
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah, I have not seen it yet. I'll definitely be on the lookout for it. Yes, yeah, because I thought he was retired for good. But now I've seen other stuff pop up of Billy Joel. It's weird how some of that stuff kind of the logarithm works.
Yeah, see, he popped into mind because I found a concert video of his and had watched that a little ways back, and that's why Billy Joel's in my stuff.
I can't figure out what would have led. I mean, I guess because of classic rock. I don't know. I don't know.
You may never know.
Yeah, no, the world may never know. All right, special shout-outs.
I do have one, but I want to obviously say thanks to Jaleigh for hanging out with us and putting up with our usual shenanigans.
Yep, that was a blast.
She handled it well.
Yeah, she did.
So yeah, my actual shout out is not a happy one, really, unfortunately. And this one's kind of tough. It has been a while, but I have talked about a podcast called Ignorance Was Bliss. The host of that podcast, Kate, died a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I listened to Pitney Amelia, and she started off the show with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was. I mean, she's one of those people who would almost certainly have balked if you'd called her influential when she was around, if she could hear it. But honestly, she really was. She was always positive. She was always building people up. And she had been, unfortunately, suffering for a while. She'd had like layers of chronic illnesses for at least the last year that I can recall off the top of my head. So it's really sad that she had to go, but her show is still out there, obviously, and she did an interview show, and it was seemingly random, the people she would talk to. The way she used to phrase it was she collected stories. So there's some really interesting stories in her podcast, and it's definitely worth taking a look at, listening to. But unfortunately, there won't be any more.
Obviously, our thoughts go to her family, friends, and loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I said, I listened to the new Pitney and Amelia, and she started off the show talking about Kate, and she promoted the hell out of the show.
Yeah, so they played her promo quite a bit. I've never really gotten around to playing promos for other podcasts on our show, but hers would definitely have been one of the first.
Any other shout-outs? I do need to mention one thing that I totally forgot. I was going to do it earlier. I know we've missed a couple of weeks due to personal stuff.
This last one was my fault, guys. Sorry.
But there will not be a new episode next week. It's our regularly scheduled week off, and honestly, we need it. I don't want, with some of the stuff that's been going on in our lives over the last several weeks to months, a week just to kind of not think about doing the podcast. Not that it's a chore or anything. We loved it. We love doing this.
Well, we wouldn't do it if we didn't, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll just need a break. So we'll be back the following week.
We've got, we made the crack earlier about not having done an interview for a while. This is the first of 3 coming up very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a little teaser.
So, okay, let's move on to our regular shout-outs. First, wanted to thank Pop Goes to Culture for allowing us to be a part of a great podcast network. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Podern Family, who've been so kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links on Twitter/X. The best way to check them out is to go there and do a search, #Podern Family, one word. and just scroll through whatever catches your attention. Please check them out. We want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying music to the podcast. In our show notes, there will be a link where you can check out some of their other pieces of music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. If you join our Discord, we do have a channel specifically designed for feedback. You can post your thoughts there. On social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram, Hive Social, and Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you want to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at TomTC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate the support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,